Solo mining is the embodiment of the original dream, a defiant act of individual sovereignty where one person, one node, and one miner take a stand against centralized control. We don't just mine for profit, we mine for principle. We mine for ourselves and for each other and for the unyielding spirit at Bitcoin's core. Join us as we dig in and hold the line. This is the Home Mining Podcast. Hello and welcome back to the Home Mining Podcast by Solo Satoshi. I'm your host, 2Sats, and I'm joined today by one of the most exciting and innovative open source developers in the home mining space, Mr. VNPRC, Evan. How you doing, Evan?
Great. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the warm intro.
Hey, man, just the truth. I'm very excited about what you're doing, and I want to be the first to congratulate you on the big, exciting news of the HRF grant for open source development. I'm so happy that you got that. You're well deserving of it, and we're going to have a really high signal interview for all the home miners and the cypherpunks out there today to explain why you got that and what you're doing in the open source mining space.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very pumped. It's been a dream of mine to be a cypherpunk for a long time, and I worked in the corporate world. I quit during COVID due to burnout, and because I just had this growing knowledge that I needed to work on Bitcoin. So finally, it's very validating to get paid to be an open source developer. It means that I'm a professional open source developer now, perhaps the most unprofessional professional open source developer.
Not a bad title to have. Yeah, man, well deserving of the grant, because I think what you're building here is going to be revolutionary for home miners, and it's going to change, the landscape here over the next years, 5 years, 10 years. It's going to be instrumental in shaping the way things go in home mining. So I'm excited to dig into all of that with you. So, first I'd love to just get your origin story, because I think, you're relatively low key on socials, and, people can find you, but you're not out there tweeting every day. So I think it'd be great to just get a bit about your Bitcoin origin story, and then a bit about your home mining origin story.
Yeah, for sure. So my Bitcoin origin story, I've been in Bitcoin for a long time. I don't like to get specific about dates. It's bad OPSEC. But I had a coworker a long, long time ago come up to me and say, "Hey, have you heard about Bitcoin?" And he gave me the elevator pitch. And I was like, that sounds weird. Okay, I'll try it out. I installed the Bitcoin Qt client and synced it up overnight. And the next day I bought my first Bitcoin. And then I just bought, it was internet funny money. I was like, whatever, I got a little play money. It'll probably go to nothing, but this is cool. Let's play around. I bought the first Bitcoin textbook at the time, which was called An Introduction to Bitcoin and Cryptocurrencies by a Princeton professor named Arvind Naravayan. I hope I get his name right. Anyway, that book is dated now, but I just kept falling down the rabbit hole, consuming as much info as I could. And the whole time I had this growing conviction in Bitcoin, because it all just made sense. And I had to follow down the rabbit hole of money as well and learn what money is, which I feel like is a fundamental step for every Bitcoiner. You have to unlearn all the disinformation that's been pushed into your head through the media or schooling or whatever. But I had this growing conviction, and in my professional life, it was going okay. I never really had a job that mattered, so it was tough, because I always knew at the end of the day, what am I accomplishing with this job and this career? And the answer was nothing. I'm working hard to make somebody else a bunch of money, and it's not improving humanity. It's not doing good for the world. But I knew about this Bitcoin thing that actually is going to save the world, I believe. And then COVID happened, which was tough for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. I sort of kind of entered a downward spiral, and I pulled myself out of it by quitting my job and deciding to focus full-time on Bitcoin. Maybe a month after that, I went to TabConf, the first Bitcoin conference I went to. My brother dragged me along, He's been a really great influence in my life. He opened a lot of doors for me. But I went to TabConf and I knew I wanted to start a Bitcoin meetup, and I went to a BitDevs event there. I knew I wanted a technical meetup because we have a social meetup here in North Carolina. I'm based out of the Research Triangle, North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. We have a very old, actually, Bitcoin social meetup. But I wanted the technical stuff. I wanted to get nerdy and get deep into the code and the protocol. So I knew I wanted to start up a technical meetup. I went to BitDevs at TabConf and it blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. There's all these new ideas and new concepts that I hadn't never heard of. And I talked to Jay afterwards at a bar and I was like, hey, I want to start a branch. How do I do it? And he was like, cool. I have a blog post that tells you exactly how to do it. Read my blog post and hit me up. So the next month I started my first BitDevs, and we've been going over 3 years now. I've been hosting one every month for 3 years. Couple different event types. Once I hosted it's called a builder day, where it was just kind of like show up, show us what you're building. I'm a software dev, so I kind of wanted to see what other people were making, or just see who I could entice to come in and plant their flag as a Bitcoiner in the local area. And this guy, Scott, came in and he said, hey, I'm working on this new open source mining hardware that has a single ASIC chip in it. I'm calling it the BitX, and it's almost done. And I was like, cool. I don't know anything about mining, but that sounds cool. It's open source. Open source seems like the way to save the world. And the next month, he came back again, and he had hooked up with another guy at my meetup, and named Johnny. And Johnny backwards engineered Johnny just jumped in and started working on it. He's amazing. I love that guy. He backwards engineered the firmware for the first ASIC chip for the first version of BitX. He just went off on the weekend and did it. Scott and Johnny had talked, and Scott was like, oh, I need this last piece. Johnny built it. Scott comes back the next month and is like, hey, I finished that thing I made, released it, and I posted it on Twitter, and some big account picked it up and retweeted it, and I got 4,000 followers yesterday. And we were all like, what? That's amazing. And it's been a wild ride since then. Scott is out there crushing it every day. His star has continued to rise. And it's really amazing to me because I played a little bit of a role in there. I've been hosting this meetup. I basically planted my flag in the ground and said, hey, I'm doing Bitcoin stuff to see who comes to me. And Scott and Johnny both showed up randomly at this meetup. Magic happened, and the BitX wasn't born. It was incubated a little bit, I guess you could say.
That's a real like bat signal moment, right? Like you just put yourself out there, build it, and they will come. And it was like a signal to all like-minded people to come together and birth this thing that we're here talking about and celebrating.
Yeah, exactly. A bit signal.
Signal. There you go. That's a great new term. I love it, man. That's really cool. That origin story is really cool of how they all came together, and that you didn't actually have any mining interest or knowledge up until that point, and that, I guess, kickstarted you into this world of mining, and now you're working on what we're here to deep dive on, which is Hashpool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I didn't have any knowledge. I've studied the Bitcoin protocol, so I understood it at a high level, but never dove in, never played with miner, never tried to mine before. That's all changed. Once BitX sort of started getting big, I realized that this thing has real momentum. This is really happening, and there's appears to be a ton of demand. I went to Nashville, I think last year for the magazine conference, and someone won a BitX block like the day before.
Yes.
That's when it started to click. I was wandering around the conference hall. I had just gotten laid off from Swan, so I was trying to figure out the next thing. And I saw BitXs were selling like hotcakes, and I was like, "Wow, this thing has legs." I think we're at the beginning of an exponential trend. So how can I assist? And one of the big problems I noticed, Johnny again gave me a BitX as a Christmas present, I guess as a thank you for doing what I do, hosting BitDevs and contributing what I can. And one of the UX experience, like the UX for the BitX is, it needs a lot of work. You buy one, you plug it in, you have to create a mining pool account if you ever want to see any rewards from your mining. And the truth is that mining pools just don't cater to small micro miners. There's minimum withdrawal thresholds. You have to create an account. Most of them are KYC'd. There's a couple of options for non-KYC or pseudonymous mining pool accounts, but they're not really great. Even in Ocean, which I'm a huge Ocean fan, and I'm intending to build on Ocean, and we'll get into that a little later, but that's a pseudonymous account. You create a Bitcoin address, and that is your account, which is pretty good. It's like, you can conceal your identity, but it's still an account at the end of the day. And one of the things, well, okay. One of the other things I'm super excited about is eCash. I'm a huge eCash nerd, and I've been following the developments in that space for years as well. And actually, fun story, I didn't even know about eCash until I started my BitDevs. The first meetup agenda notes at the very bottom, there's this Fediment link. And I was like, that was my first introduction to eCash. So I've been following that along and learning about it as well. And I started to piece together the pieces of how to improve the BitX user experience using eCash. And where I landed is that I think we need to have mining pools specifically catered to micro miners. And if you build this using eCash, we can do it in a way that preserves the user's privacy and even introduces a very low level, very free, as in speech, and liquid asset that is a Bitcoin futures instrument. I don't want to lose anybody, but with financial terminology, but a future is basically an asset you hold that is redeemable in the future for some other asset. You can buy like iron futures. And this is just it's just a record in somebody's ledger or database. But what it entitles you to is delivery of some amount of iron in the future. And you can trade this for a certain price. What we can do, well, okay. I don't know. I have to explain a lot of different concepts, so it's tricky to know where to start.
I'll guide you through. Don't worry. I've got
All
you.
right.
I like it. I like it. Let's rein it back a little bit, and we'll start at the top. You just touched on it a little bit there, that, the main problem that Hashpool is solving is that there's home mining and solo mining to pools is not very effective or efficient for like the little person, right? The payouts are sometimes years to be able to get, barring like Ocean and maybe a few others, right?
I mine the Ocean with my BitX, and it's going to take me like 10 or 20 years to get a payout.
Okay, so still a problem. Yes, on chain. So that's where Hashpool starts to come in. So how is Hashpool solving this a problem for Bitcoin miners, and how does it differ from the way that traditional mining pools are operating?
Yeah, great question. You are guiding me. This is perfect. Traditional mining pools, most of them just do on-chain payouts, and there's a couple of issues here that prevent small payouts. I guess the most fundamental one is that the way a mining pool gets paid is it mines a block, and the first transaction in that block is called the Coinbase reward, not the company. The Coinbase is actually a concept in the Bitcoin protocol that company in Silicon Valley took the name of. So lowercase c Coinbase. This is where the block subsidy comes in. So right now you get 3.125 Bitcoin per block, I think, plus whatever the fees are. Right now the fees are effectively zero. So when a mining pool mines, they get a block, they get 3.125 Bitcoin in this single transaction, and they can pay it out to their miners. But what happens is, if you add some outputs to this transaction, say you've got 100 people mining to your pool, if you add 100 outputs to this transaction, it gets very large, and it actually cannibalizes the fee rates, the fees that you collect in this block. It consumes block space that could be used to earn money. So mining pools really want to limit the number of outputs so that they can squeeze more transactions into each block. So traditionally what they've done is they just send the Coinbase reward to their own custodial account, and then they do payouts from that account, which is like, it's fine. It works. It got us this far, but it's custodial. So it's kind of the trust me bro model of accounting. I think to really truly decentralize mining, we have to get away from this custodial model as much as we can. So there's this limiting fact. It's kind of a bottleneck on mining pool rewards. Another bottleneck is pools want a minimum payout threshold. So even if the Coinbase reward goes to the pool's custodial account, they still have to do a fan out transaction. So they still have to take this one transaction and send it out to 100 outputs to pay their miners. And one way that they limit the number of these fan out transactions, or the number of outputs in these fan out transactions, is by implementing a minimum payout threshold. So if I'm mining with a BitX and I earn like 100 sats, they're not going to pay out 100 sats in an on-chain transaction. Number one, the fees are going to eat you up. When you try to spend that UTXO, you're going to lose almost all of it to fees. Number two, it's just a lot of outputs, and they still have to do these fan out transactions, which are pretty large. And the less, I guess another way to put it, a better way to put it, is the more infrequently that they can do payouts, the more block space they have, and the less they pay in fees, if that makes sense. So they have a minimum payout threshold. I think it depends. It varies by pool, but if you're not mining $500, $1,000 in your account, you're probably not going to match the minimum payout threshold. So you just have to wait. I mined an Ocean with a BitX. I have not. I should mention that there are. That's just for on-chain payouts. There are other ways to have smaller payouts. Ocean and I think Brains Pool have Bolt 12 payouts. This is a Lightning transaction. But it which is good. It's better. Like, it's an improvement, but it introduces a big usability challenge as well, because I think it's just not possible to, you have to run a Lightning node to receive Bolt 12 transactions. It may be possible through other means, but there's a lot of technical hurdles to jump before you can receive Bolt 12 transactions. It's just not that usable yet. And I think there are additional complexities in the way Ocean does it. And I'm not casting any shade at all on Ocean. I love those guys. They're the best mining pool out there. Please don't misinterpret me. But I think with eCash we can get over those hurdles. You won't need to run a Lightning node. You can withdraw 100 sats to your eCash wallet, and I think it'll supercharge Bitcoin mining if we can get there. That was the idea behind Hashpool.
Brilliant. Well said. And this perfectly lays out and illustrates like what the problem is and what the bottleneck is, right? Because there's one of the most common arguments that I hear with BitXs, is like, well, you're never going to hit a block and you can't get a payout with small amounts of sats, right? And a lot of people don't care necessarily, or at least at the start, they don't care about, well, you're playing a part in helping decentralize the network, and that's not like their main thing. They want the reward, they want the sats, right? And so what Hashpool is going to allow is a workaround for that, right? Because as you said with the Bolt 12 thing, and the research that I've been doing with that is that, it's clunky, it's not well supported, and there's maybe one or two wallets right now that have a built-in mechanism for that, but that's not easy to use, and it's not widely adoptable, at least as of yet. So Hashpool might be the golden goose here that unlocks usability for these small amounts of sats. So walk us through eCash as the engine behind Hashpool. Like, tell us, what's the simplest version of how it turns a miner's hash rate into private and instant payouts?
Sure. So eCash, I should probably start with explaining how eCash works. It's I think the best way to think of it, and this is how I think of it, is it's a bank. It's a digital bank. And if you're a student of economics, you might have come across the theory of free banking, free as in freedom again. And the idea here is, and I'm paraphrasing, like this is very high level rough sketch. The idea is basically banks without regulators on a hard money standard that print their own banknotes. And we used to have free banking in a form in this country back in the 1800s. It wasn't really free though, because there actually were regulations that stifled them. In Scotland, there was a much more free banking system, and that's where economists have studied this stuff and learned about it. The reason it works well on Bitcoin, well, so yeah, okay. So an eCash Mint is a free bank. They custody the hard money asset. It used to be gold in the real world in meat space and paper banknotes. An eCash Mint custodies Bitcoin, digital gold, and it issues digital banknotes, which is the eCash token. So a good way to think about it is you put your Bitcoin in the vault of the Mint, and they give you a paper banknote with no serial number. And you can trade this banknote to others. I could send it to you, and you can just take it back to the Mint and say, I have this 10-cent banknote. I would like to refresh it for a new banknote, please. And they give you a new one. And the magic that makes eCash so amazing is that you can do this in a completely private way, so that the Mint itself has no idea who is creating eCash banknotes, who is trading them to whom, and who is destroying them. And the way you create banknotes is you send some Bitcoin in the Casher protocol. You send some Lightning in. You get an eCash token. That's called a mint. It's like creating a coin from gold, like melting down the gold and creating a coin. And then when you trade it with someone, it's called a swap. And when you redeem it with the mint, you give them your eCash token and say, I would like to take my Bitcoin out of the bank now. And they send you a Lightning transaction. That's called melting. Um, the cryptographic magic, and I'm going to try to keep it at a high level so everybody can understand. It's really brilliant. It's actually an old technology. This guy named David Chaum invented it in, I think, 1982. He published this paper. It's a cryptography paper, although you wouldn't believe it if you read it. But in the whole paper, he talks in a metaphor of and the metaphor is this: you take a letter, you write a letter, you put it on top or underneath a piece of carbon paper. And if you guys, I'm dating myself, we actually used carbon paper when I was a kid. But the thing about carbon paper is if you write on top, if you write something on the top sheet, it transfers below. Like the pressure of your pen actually writes to the lower sheet. It's like a transfer. It's like an analog copy machine. So you take this letter, you put it on top of a piece of carbon paper, you fold it up, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, and give it to the bank to sign. And the bank signs it without ever opening the envelope. They're blind signing it. And then they give it back to you, and you open it up and you take it out. What's actually inside the envelope is imagine a bearer bond certificate that says, I'm entitled to 100 sats from this eCash Mint. You get the bank's signature. You get the Mint's signature on that note that they have never seen before. And what the Mint does is if you take this banknote out, you trade it with someone else, they can take it back to the bank, and the bank can verify their own signature and say, wow, this is mine. I've never seen this before, but I definitely signed this. So this is valid. I'm going to redeem these sats, or I'm going to give you a new banknote, and I'm going to sign it in the same way. All of this in eCash, all of this happens in a digital way. It's extremely fast. It's extremely a simple protocol. So there's just this one server. Everyone just talks to this server. They can ensure their privacy the whole time, because I said earlier that eCash is like banknotes without serial numbers. The truth is, eCash is like banknotes, but the user picks the serial numbers, and the bank actually never sees the serial numbers until you bring the note back to turn it back in. But they can still validate their signature through the magic of cryptography. This idea captured my mind like a long time ago, and the beauty of it is this, that um, it enables like best in class privacy. I say that it's theoretically perfect privacy. You still have to protect your like IP address. You have to take network security measures. You know, someone screenshots you or takes a picture of your face, you're in trouble. But you can use eCash in a way that is truly private. Um, that is not true for almost every other kind of digital currency. And the simplicity of it allows us to build on top of Bitcoin. The reason eCash was invented a long time ago, 1982, and David Chaum actually tried to take it mainstream with his company called DigiCash, and he failed for various reasons. And there's actually a debate around why he failed. But I think fundamentally, if you look at the history, if you read the Genesis book, fantastic book, I highly recommend it. It goes through all this stuff. I think it failed because he tried to build eCash on top of a foundation of fiat money. Like, you don't want to build a castle on sand. You want to build a castle on bedrock. eCash is really, really fantastic for representing things of digital value, natively digital value. So with the advent of Bitcoin and Lightning in particular, you now have this digital hard money that you can use as the foundation for a digital eCash mint. And it's really taken off. Fedimint got an early start. Kali came along with Cashew and just focused on the eCash piece. Fedimint does something a lot more complicated. They're actually using a quorum of coordinators. So this is like three, or actually it's like 4 or 7 individuals collaboratively running the bank. And that's like a really hard computer science problem. And Fedimint has solved it, which is amazing, but it's very technically challenging in a way that Cashew is not. Cashew just went and said, oh, we're just going to do one signer. We're going to have one bank manager. And that simplifies a lot of things. And it really allows the Cashew team to sort of supercharge the development around the eCash technology itself and not have to worry about all this distributed consensus stuff that Fedimint does.
Is that presenting a single point of failure? Is this completely trustless? Or from my understanding, one of the criticisms seems to be that this is not completely trustless and it's relying on sort of a centralized risk.
Yeah, not only is it not trustless, it is 100% trusted. This is a totally different model. And a lot of Bitcoiners, I think, have this sort of fetishization around trustlessness. And trustlessness is a spectrum. Bitcoin is as trustless as we can get. It's still not trustless if you really think hard about it. You're trusting every Bitcoin node runner in the world, which is as close as we can get to trustlessness. eCash sort of slides the slider all the way from trustlessness to privacy. Because the way I think about it, there's a 3-sided triangle. You have verification, which is very important, trustlessness, and privacy. And in Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, the way that the thing that made Bitcoin possible was the blockchain, this full audit trail of all transactions ever. So it sort of kills the privacy use case. Although Satoshi did a good thing, he made it pseudonymous. So that's why we create a new Bitcoin address every time you want to receive some money. So it's a little bit better than like Ethereum. Ethereum just goes full retard. Every account is a single pub key, a single public-private key pair. So address reuse is the way Ethereum was built. Bitcoin at least is pseudonymous. You don't have to reuse your address. But it's not, what I'm getting at is the privacy properties of on-chain Bitcoin are terrible. But the trustlessness is as good as it can get. In eCash, we sort of flip this on its head. You go full on trusted setup and you gain full privacy, like as good of privacy as you can possibly get. I think if we come up with something better, my mind would be blown. I don't think it's possible at this time, but it could be. So when people complain that eCash is custodial, they're right. it is custodial. You should not put your life savings in eCash. What it is good for is small transactions. Like when I carry around my wallet, I keep a couple $100 in there. It's not like I might lose my wallet. I don't want to lose my life savings, so I don't carry my life savings in my wallet. Think of eCash as the same way. It's for small private transactions. And when you think about it, most of the transactions you make are small. If we can regain privacy on the majority of our transactions and keep our life savings in the most secure and trustless and valuable monetary asset in the world, this is the best of both worlds. But you do have to move money. You have to move value in between these two systems. You use it over here for privacy, and you use it over here for security and trustlessness.
Great explanation. And one area that I think Bitcoiners either, they're not super aware of, or they're not putting a lot of importance on, maybe, and we could break it down here. Now seems like a good time to touch on it, would be, and you mentioned a little bit about it, but blind signing is important and zero knowledge proofs are important. Can you break down, what those are and why they're so critical in systems like this that are looking for privacy?
I explained blind signing. Zero knowledge proofs, I'm not a cryptographer, so take my explanations with a grain of salt. Zero knowledge proof, my understanding is that it's a way to prove that you know something without stating what you know. So, and I think it's a big umbrella term. Like there's a lot of things that I didn't think of as ZKPs that actually are. And I'm kind of curious. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, but I'm kind of curious how many more things are like this that I don't think of them as ZKPs, but they are. And I'm not, yeah, I think you should go and get a better cryptography expert to explain like in detail. Blind signing. Yeah. Should I go any deeper than the envelope metaphor?
I like the metaphor a lot, and you have a great image of that on hashpool.dev. So if people do want to sort of refresh their knowledge and pair that image along with your explanation, hashpool.dev has a great image of the envelope metaphor that really helped me sort of like simplify and break down exactly what was happening there. And so I think that's a great place to leave that one. Just you can go check it out at hashpool.dev or replay back what Evan just talked about. But it is a fundamental part of what's going on here with Hashpool and eCash, right? So, moving forward, Hashpool also introduces eHash, and that's sort of a new mining reward, right? What exactly is it, and how does it go from a miner's work to Bitcoin in their wallet?
Yes, I'm a lot better qualified to answer this question. eHash is, well, so we have to get into a little bit of how mining pools work, or how mining works, in order to understand sort of why eHash is necessary. But I'll start at the beginning, I guess. eHash is an eCash asset that is not backed by Bitcoin. It's backed by proof of work. These are the, or more specifically, it's backed by mining shares. These are the guesses. If you've heard someone explain how mining works, they probably talked about some of the worst explanations you can get are that miners solve complicated math problems. That's not really true. Miners are running an algorithm. It's called SHA-256. It's a hashing algorithm. It's a one-way function that takes some data and produces a fixed length fingerprint of that data. So you're just fingerprinting data. That's what miners do. And the magic of Bitcoin mining is that you can use this process to prove with statistical certainty, as close as that's an oxymoron, but you can kind of prove how much work you've done or how many guesses you made to get this fingerprint. And this was actually an innovation from Adam Back, the CEO of Blockstream. He came up with a system called Hashcash a long time ago, before Bitcoin, that actually was an inspiration for Bitcoin. And basically the idea is you generate one of these fingerprints, you pretend it's a number, and then you just look at how low the number is. Or the way I think of it is you look at how many zeros are at the beginning of the number. So if we've got a fixed length number in computer memory, we'll just say we've allocated 100 number slots in our computer memory. The first number is 0, so all of the bits are 0. The second number is 1, so there's only one bit at the end, and everything is a 0 in front of that. You can look at this as a way to... I lost my train of thought. The hash that you get out, the fingerprint that you get out from your ASIC, has some number of zeros at the beginning, and it's directly correlated with how lucky that guess was. And this is what your miner is really doing. What happens at a protocol level when you're mining, say you buy a BitX, you plug it in, you mine upstream to a mining pool, your BitX is just throwing out guesses. It just takes the next block, or it takes what could be the next block, and it's just trying to hash and get as many of these zeros as it can. And when it finds one that's pretty good, it sends it upstream to the mining pool. This is called a mining share. And it is proof that you worked this hard, depending on how many zeros are at the beginning. If you've got one more zero than your last mining share, then that's approximately twice as hard because it's a binary number. What eHash is we take these mining shares and we issue eCash tokens in exchange for these mining shares. And this is a really beautiful pairing because, like I said earlier, eCash is really good at representing a digital banknote representing something of digital value. So these proof of work mining shares are something of digital value. But they're only good for a little while. They have a very short lifespan. You have to send that share upstream to the mining pool, and they have to account for it and attribute some value to your mining pool account before the next block is found. Because once the next block is found, if you send a share in, it's no longer like it can't. You're not working on the right block. You're not working on the tip of the blockchain, so it's worthless now. The whole idea behind eHash is we can take these mining shares, represent them as eCash tokens, give them back to the users, and they can trade these tokens. And instead of having an account at the mining pool, so if I'm mining upstream to a hash pool, instead of saying this share is Evan's, put it on Evan's ledger, what happens is the mining pool also runs an eCash mint. And I come to the mining pool with my BitX and say, hey, I found a share. And the mining pool is like, cool, mint, give this man an eCash token. And the mint gives him an eCash token in exchange for that share. And now I've got this fantastic privacy benefit that we went over earlier from eCash. And it's kind of amazing how, if you follow the chain of logic, it's kind of amazing what kind of properties pop out of the system. Because eCash tokens or eHash tokens are tradable. So you can create tradable shares now. I can mine up a share and I can sell it to someone else and take my profit right now and maybe pay my electricity bill, whatever. Maybe I just want to cash out, unplug my BitX miner and maybe I got to move or something. You can also buy these tokens and hold them in your eCash wallet without ever doing any mining. And then when the pool gets a payout and this token is now worth some value, you trade it in for some actual Bitcoin. And it might be more than you paid for it. It might be less than you paid for it. This is what makes it a futures instrument. You're assuming the risk of the mining reward payouts. So we've got better privacy. We've got this futures instrument that we've just introduced. The other kind of big idea for Hashpool is that, so one problem with mining, starting a new mining pool in general, is that you need to have enough hash rate to find Bitcoin blocks. So if all the BitX miners in the world got together and solo pooled on the same solo pool, they probably find blocks like infrequently. I don't know, once a week. I haven't done the math. They would find blocks infrequently. But if we wanted to start a new Hashpool instance, how would we, you'd have to convince everyone to start mining on it before you find any blocks. So usually the way mining pools go is they'll go out and find a big partner. They'll find a big hash rate provider to help them find blocks. And that sort of gets the flywheel spinning so that they can then find more miners. One of the the sort of ideas that really motivated me to build this thing is that you don't have to do things that way. You don't have to have this top level mining pool that finds blocks directly. We can actually, there is a construction where you can build a mining pool that mines upstream to another mining pool. And I call it a proxy pool. Your proxy pool is just an account holder at the upstream mining pool. So now you can benefit from the regular payouts of the larger mining pool, and you can do whatever you want at the proxy pool level. In my case, I want to do eCash. I got a lot of other ideas of other cool things you can do. And we're going to talk to go through that stuff at BTC++ next month. But the first thing, and I think the most important thing, is eHash. And this sort of solves the getting started mining pool problem. It really like shrinks down the level. It like zooms in. So you can now have a very small mining operation. I think of it as my go-to use case is I want people who run Bitcoin clubs and have a couple of friends to be able to host a mining pool just for them and their friends. So if you buy some ASICs and you get together with some other people in your local area that buy ASICs, one person can step up, run this mining pool, this proxy mining pool, and everyone can mine to them. And we talked earlier about how eCash mints are custodial. One of the ways to sort of get around this trustlessness issue or get around this trust issue is that we can bring in like human social layer trust. I forget who said it, but someone said, all you need to know is who to punch. If you have a personal relationship with the person who is custodying your Bitcoin and they rug you, you can go punch them, or you can trash their reputation. So we can sort of get around this custodial issue by solving it in the meat space on the social layer. And that's kind of where I want to go with this. If we have small Bitcoin clubs running, like one Uncle Jim runs a mining pool, everyone can mine to them privately. And if they rug, then, well, you better lock your door because people know where you live.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because this is also so heavy on the privacy side. So I'm surprised that, just surprised to hear you say that we'd look to be able to go solve the trust issue by being able to go and beat somebody up if they rug us. So.
I'm not advocating anyone's violence. That was a metaphor. That was, please don't go and punch anyone. But if someone rugs you and you know who they are in person, yes, you have other alternative methods. You can tell everybody, you can trash their reputation. I think that's what you should do. You should say, hey, that guy stole my Bitcoin and I can prove it. So don't mine with that guy. Or you can take it to the police or whatever.
Maybe you take your dog to shit on their lawn. Some sort of recourse is what you're saying.
Something.
Got it.
Don't break any laws, or at least don't tell the cops that I told you to break the laws, please.
That's right. This is not advice. Right on. So you've designed Hashpool to be accountless and private. How does that actually work under the hood for the average user? Like, can you explain that in simplistic terms?
Yeah. So if you're mining to a Hashpool, and retrieving your eHash tokens, what it means from the mining pool perspective is they don't know who is contributing hash rate to their mining pool. B, they don't know, so you mine to the pool, you retrieve your eHash, and then you trade it with someone. The mining pool doesn't know who you're trading with. And when you take your eHash tokens and go to redeem them with the mining pool, they don't know who is redeeming rewards either. So in a way, it creates this sort of third-party market where this professional class of traders can develop. And they'll be one of the problems with the mining pool industry today is that there's not enough competition. If I want to sell my hash rate, I can go out and find, maybe I have to like look really hard to find people who want to buy it, or I can go to NiceHash. It's like it's not very liquid, I would say. There's not a lot of competition. If we can have this privacy at the base layer, I think we'll introduce a lot more competition, because now anyone can buy and sell hash rate and be a trader. But one of the things and that's cool. Like, I'm not really a financial kind of guy. I'm interested in money from a Bitcoin perspective. One of the things that excites me a lot more is from a privacy perspective, if you can just buy eHash from anyone in the world and then redeem Bitcoin rewards with it. Well, we've just created a global, borderless, private Bitcoin on-ramp. I can just buy, if someone's running a Hashpool instance in a friendly jurisdiction, and I happen to live in a Bitcoin unfriendly jurisdiction, I can buy their eHash. The government never needs to know. I can redeem it for Bitcoin rewards. And eCash is just super private. And then eventually, when I have enough money, I can take an on-chain payment. I can redeem my eCash for on-chain Bitcoin or Lightning Bitcoin. Like, we've kind of just solved the on-ramp problem, haven't we? Another thing that excites me about this is that we can take the privacy premium. So we know there's a privacy premium. People do coin joins. They're willing to pay money to regain on-chain privacy. So there's a market there. There's a demand there. We can take this privacy economic demand and funnel it into pleb mining, funnel it into small scale miners, get more hash rate, outcompete the big guys. That's, I think, what excites me the most about this whole proposal. As you know, probably better than anyone, the mining industry as a whole is like trending in the wrong direction. The big guys get bigger. FPPS is not transparent. It's not open source. We really need to fix this to save Bitcoin. So this in particular, this facet of Hashpool, that's what really captured my imagination. And once I realized the implications, I was like, wow, I have to go build this. This is too good. I can't just think about this anymore. I need to start doing stuff. So yeah.
One thing you said there that I think is sort of like the brilliance of this, sort of the meat of this, is you've created a global, borderless, permissionless sort of liquid exchange with the eHash, the eCash, and the Bitcoin being able to go from person to person without really needing to break privacy standards.
Yeah, and it really is peer-to-peer electronic cash. Like, you read the white paper, it's right there in the title. I mean, Bitcoiners have to run their own node or run their own Lightning node and like trade with people. There's a usability problem there, but with eCash, we can bring the usability hurdle to as low as possible. All you have to do is install an eCash wallet. And there's a really good Cashew PWA wallet. It's a web browser that looks like an app on your phone. So literally, you can just go to cashew.me. You could get started on eCash. I could send you 100 sats right now. You can't really do that on Lightning. There's like an onboarding fee onto Lightning. You have to open a Lightning channel to do it self-custodially. Or if you want to get on custodial Lightning, now you've introduced the rug risk. Custodial Lightning is not better than eCash. It's just eCash with worse privacy. So we don't want to go there.
Absolutely. Yes. I remember seeing Callie explain, the fact that there's no minimums and that you can send 10 sats, you can send 1 sat, you can send 100 sats. And that's, I think, really what the home mining crew needs to unlock. And Hashpool helps unlock that at a fundamental level. So that is solving for one of the biggest problems that we are facing. So, huge amounts of gratitude and respect to you for seeing that as a problem and seeing how it diverges. Like, the problem is pulling us further away from, I think, like the spirit of Bitcoin and the ethos of mining, home mining, and you're building something that alleviates that pain.
Yeah, I want to bring it back home. We need peer-to-peer electronic cash microtransactions.
Yes, absolutely. That's the name of the game for sure. And you're somebody that I know you live on a Bitcoin standard, and so who better to understand that and then develop something to make it possible than someone like you. So that's incredible.
And my guiding star, my guiding UX light is I want people to be able to buy a BitX. Maybe they go to the Bitcoin Club where someone runs a Hashpool instance, for example. But I want people to be able to buy a BitX, install a Cashew wallet, and then just start watching the sats land in their wallet. That's the dream. And I think I have a path to get there.
Fundamentally change the game. Just like the day when everybody saw the first block being mined and went, oh shit, this is real and this is tangible and this is possible. When what you're implementing and building with Hashpool comes online and allows these micro amounts of sats to come streaming into their wallets once they plug the BitX in, it's going to fundamentally wake a lot of people up and shake them out of their slumber. So I'm really looking forward to that. And that's really why I wanted to have you on, because I really, when I found out about this, I was like, this is something that's going to really radically reshape the way people are using and seeing and gaining value from their BitX, which is in and of itself already an incredible tool, right? But it takes it from just being a lottery miner to being something that is providing real, tangible, everyday benefit with those sats streaming in through Hashpool.
Yeah, and I think if you follow sort of the development of the mining industry, you probably know about mining heat reuse. I think it's where we're going, but it's small scale. Like I run an S9. We had a cold snap, so I turned my S9 back on and just heats my house up. But it mines like 1,000 sats a month or something. It's just kind of not practical. It's impractical to do that. The same problem that BitX has. It's impractical with the current pool designs. So I think this 0 to 1 moment is going to click in people's heads, and then my hope is that really supercharges the development of sort of the pleb mining industry, the heat reuse industry. And I think once that happens, Bitcoin is going to take over the world.
Yeah, those two things could play extremely well together. And if we ever hit dollar sat parity, which I think it's only, a matter of patience and time, then those 1,000 sats are going to be very valuable. And so, yeah, having easy access to claiming that reward will be critical. So and we've touched on a ton of things, but if there was one thing that someone that's new to the Hashpool world, when this is all, live and in everybody's hands, like what's the one thing that everybody should understand about how this empowers them as miners, and how does it maybe fit into Bitcoin's broader ecosystem?
The thing they need to understand about how it powers them as miners. I don't know.
Is it just the ability to get those microtransactions, those small amounts of sats?
Yeah, I think it's peer-to-peer electronic money. I think it's peer-to-peer electronic digital cash. Like this is how we do it. Yeah, sell some eHash to your friends, or just hold it and mine it and withdraw it and keep mining. Mining so Bitcoin is under threat from the mining cartels. Definitely keep mining. Keep buying more ASICs. I think the tariffs are like destroying ASIC profitability, so they might be hard to get. But keep getting them, keep mining them. The more decentralized and distributed the hash rate is, I think, the more decentralized and distributed Bitcoin will be. And once small scale hashers can withdraw their rewards in a very fluid and usable manner, my thesis is that it's gonna explode in popularity. So keep pushing, keep mining, keep selling people on Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, and let's change the world.
Yeah, I mean, with big pools making BitXs, like BitX miners waiting years for payouts, it's like Hashpool's no minimum threshold is going to change the game for someone with like just one rig in their garage or in their basement, right? So, do you see a lot of people in BitX, they love tweaking hardware and they love tinkering, right? And I think that's part of the beauty of the open source nature of it. Do you think that Hashpool could inspire a wave of custom tweaks and things that help optimize for their eHash earnings?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've seen liquid immersion BitXs. I've seen hydro cooled BitXs. This stuff is amazing. You guys are incredible. One of the dream projects I would love to do is convert my house to whole ASIC heating. But I decided to write a new kind of mining pool instead. So I'm a little stretched on time. But
Time, yeah.
one thing at a time. Yeah, absolutely. But y'all keep experimenting. Like this is how how the adoption curve goes. Like Bitcoin, a lot of people go on social media and say, "Oh, Bitcoin is done. All we have to do is wait. We've already won." These people could not be more wrong. Bitcoin is people. Like it's a software program, but people have to run the program. People have to build it. All at the end of the day, it all comes down to people. So don't just sit back. Take an active role. Start mining. Start hashing. Tell your mom. Tell your church. Tell your community. Onboard people. Um, we make Bitcoin happen. We don't sit back and watch it happen. And if you get like, if you're just stacking sats because you're not in a place financially where you can quit your job or whatever, that's fine. Have a plan. And when your number comes up, when you stack sats long enough and hard enough and hodled through all these dips and you're ready to break free of the fiat system, have a plan and go out and start building on Bitcoin, whatever that means for you. If you're a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a software engineer or a podcaster, go out and make Bitcoin happen. Because I do it for my kids. I want a more free world for them to grow up in and for their kids. So everything at the end of the day, I push Bitcoin forward because I want a more free world for my kids and for everyone else's kids. And you can too. I'm a software engineer. I'm pretty well positioned to have a big impact, but that doesn't mean that every other contributor doesn't count. Right.
That's a hell of a rallying cry, man. I love that. And but it's honestly something I've been thinking a lot about personally too. Is that no matter what you come to Bitcoin for, there's always these other aspects floating around in the ecosystem, right? Like, and it really just fires me up, and it makes my heart full, because you've got like engineers, you've got software developers, you've got people of all sorts of skill sets and trades, and they're finding ways to contribute what they come from, what they know, to enhance Bitcoin. But then you've got people in horrible economic and just like violent situations and from their governments in countries like Africa and various parts of Latin America. And Bitcoin has come in there and fundamentally reshaped their whole existence in such a beautiful way that it fills your heart, and it almost brings a tear to your eye when you really dig into the stories, right? And so people, everyone loves number go up, but I mean, there's privacy, there's sovereignty, there's engineering skill sets, there's energy skill sets, harnessing nature.
Education.
And then there's education, like what we see a lot of people doing in El Salvador and some of these circular economies, right? People are being paid for goods trustlessly, permissionlessly, cross border. I mean, you're debanking Western Union's power here, basically, with money transfers, because you can send things instantly across borders to bring money back home to the people that you love and care about. So it just fundamentally blows my mind how this has all blossomed into something so beautiful. And so, to your point, no matter what background you come from or your skill set, just ask yourself what you can do for Bitcoin. As Jeff Booth always says, it's not what Bitcoin can do for you, it's what you can do for Bitcoin. And so yeah, I really love your invention and the way that you see all of this and the way that you're participating in this. And hopefully this inspires the plebs to get busy, finding out how they can contribute and what parts of Bitcoin matter most to them. So
Yeah.
that's
And
the rant.
one more thing I will say is that we are stronger together. So go to your local Bitcoin meetup, find the other Bitcoiners, find out what problems they have, see what you can do to help them solve them. Bring your problems, see what we can do together. Like what happened with my meetup. I planted my flag in the ground. I started hosting meetups, and the Bitcoiners found me. And now the magic is happening. We came together. I saw a problem with BitX, and I was like, I think I have an idea. Let's go out and make this happen. Get
That's
together with other
amazing.
Bitcoiners.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't know what's possible until you start the open lines of communication with people that are smarter than you, brighter than you, that have different views than you, and that does make your point stand, that we are all stronger together. And what you can discover when you connect with these people is nothing short of amazing. You are, as a pleb, fundamentally going to reshape the future, or shape the future into a much freer, more sovereign future for like you said, for yourself, for your kids, for your family, and hopefully for nation state level, right? That everybody benefits from sort of the trickle down aspect of what we're talking about now. Maybe we don't realize some of these impacts now, but in 10, 15, 20, 50 years, I really hope that what's being done now and in the last 10, 15 years with Bitcoin is going to result in a much more beautiful world.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come from the foundations you lay down today. Stay
Absolutely.
flexible, stay open-minded. We are we are really at the very beginning of a Cambrian explosion of technology. So you don't know what's coming down the pipe next, but if you go out and make those connections and start working today, some of those flowers are going to bloom.
Well said. I want to come back to Hashpool here because Hashpool lets anyone run a pool, right? And so if you're just a BitXer in your basement, you can host an anonymous Hashpool instance, right?
It's not done, so it's very early. There's three big pieces to Hashpool. There's issuance, which is getting the eCash tokens out of the mining pool in exchange for proof of work shares. There's redemption, which is exchanging those eHash tokens for eCash or Lightning payout or on-chain payout or Tether, if that's what you want to get paid in. And then there's a third piece, which is verification. So I think it's possible, thanks to the magic of eCash and the magic of Bitcoin, we can provably verify all of these transactions in a privacy-preserving manner. Right now, I've figured out issuance. It turns out there's a better way to do it. So I'm sort of redesigning issuance to fit with the Cashew spec better so that anyone with a Cashew wallet can come in and just start mining eHash to it, whether it's cashew.me. Zeus is adding Cashew support. I heard BTC Pay server is working on it. I really want to meet the Cashew spec and get all of these wallets interoperating. But so you can't run a Hashpool instance today.
I just meant more for the future, like when this is live, anybody can do so, like host an anonymous Hashpool instance.
Yeah, you need to know what you're doing. I guess the good news is that privacy is legal again in America. I don't know if you guys heard the news. Samurai, I don't know, Phoenix is back in the USA. Fuck yeah, love those guys. Make privacy great again. It seems to be happening now. So yeah, so far as the laws hold, we don't know what will happen in 3 years. The next change of administration, we could go back to the old way. I think we really have 3 years to push as hard as we can and get this thing adopted. And that's my goal. I want to get it out there and get people using it as soon as possible. But yeah,
Absolutely.
you
Okay.
will be able to run your own instance. There's another project that we're kind of spinning up called Hashpool. That's sort of a shortcut to running your own mining pool. And it skips over eHash. And it's a little bit different model. But the idea is that you send your proof of work mining share to the pool. It's going to be a proxy pool again. So it'll be a small scale mining pool that mines upstream to a larger pool. You send in your mining share and the mint just holds on to it until the block reward comes in. And once the Hashpool instance gets paid, then they can pay out eCash to all these other wallets. I think we can get that done faster than Hashpool, but you don't get this futures instrument. So stay tuned, pay attention to that. I've got some pals working on it. I'm putting a team together. My buddy Johnny, the same guy that backwards engineered the BitX ASIC, he's helping me write a Stratum V1 proxy to make Hashpool happen.
Johnny's a beast, eh?
I love that guy. Yeah, he's great.
Johnny's killing it.
Shout out to Johnny. He's also a Bitcoin core developer. He's working on the GUI too.
Fantastic. So if you had to sort of speculate into the future a little bit, like what would be your ideal impact that this ability would unlock for people, like being able to run your own instance of this just privately in your basement if you're a BitX, or What's the like the fundamental impact that you're hoping that this unlocks?
Well, I think so. Earlier, I discussed how Bitcoin on-chain privacy is really bad by design. Like it has to work this way. This is what makes Bitcoin possible. So I'm not trying to insult Bitcoin, but I think a lot of people are pushing as hard as they can in a lot of different ways to fix privacy on chain. One of the things that gives me hope is that if we fix privacy at the lowest level, at the pleb level, for all the new Bitcoin that comes on the market from the mining rewards, we can sort of infuse privacy into the blockchain from the ground up. If you watch I gave a talk at BTC++. It's pretty technical, but I use Bitcoin is a tree metaphor. And if you think about it, it makes a ton of sense. I think in metaphors all the time. Everything I do, I'm looking for metaphors. But the roots of the tree are sort of the mining world. We consume real world energy and funnel it into this organism, Bitcoin. The trunk of the tree is the blockchain. So we take this energy, we produce Bitcoin blocks with it. And then the UTXO set, this is all of the unspent coins out there, all of the Bitcoin that can be spent today is sort of the leaves of the tree. And when you send a Bitcoin transaction, what you're doing is you're actually consuming a UTXO and creating a new one. So I think of that as like a leaf, like turns brown and falls off in the fall, and a new leaf sprouts. This is continually happening with every block. If we can take privacy, push it up into the system from the ground, from the roots, it'll flow into the trunk, flow into the blockchain, and ultimately to the UTXO set. And I really like to think long term. I'm always thinking about the long run, the end game. I think this is maybe how we win. If we can put privacy into the system at the ground level, it'll infuse the entire system. And then we'll have privacy if you can maintain your privacy. Now, if you go and like take a screenshot of your wallet and send it to the IRS, for example, don't do that. That's how we lose our privacy.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah.
Damn, I love that. That gives me chills because people don't often think like when they're just, stacking sats, like the only way for Bitcoin to win is the way that you just described. And the only way to get new Bitcoin is through mining, right? So it's not from buying it on a centralized exchange. It's not from any of that, right? It's from new Bitcoin being mined. So if you infuse privacy into the very base of that, that's fundamental to victory. And so, yeah, well said. I love the tree metaphor as well, and we'll definitely have your BTC presentation linked so people can go and watch that. It's an amazing resource. Highly recommend you do it because these metaphors really do help paint a picture. But yeah, man, that is the greatest impact that we could have with something like this kind of a development is infusing it from the very roots, from the base, because everything will infiltrate from the ground up in that manner. So yeah, that's a great thing to be striving for. And how we're kind of early in development with Hashpool, right? Give us the raw vision. When could we see this be released?
Well, I haven't, man, as an engineer, everybody wants dates and deadlines, and it's the worst thing.
Loose, because I know that devs never like to give timelines and that's fair. But is there a loose sort of expectation?
I think roughly within a year is my sort of overarching goal for Hashpool. I think we can get Axpool out a lot faster, which is sort of one of the motivating factors to build Axpool. Yeah, there's a lot of unsolved problems, though. I think we can launch without the verification piece. That'll be the Trust Me Bro accounting model, which is kind of how cashew mints run today. But like we said, for small payouts, it's probably okay. If you get rugged for some pocket change, it's not going to ruin your life. So, yeah, was that your question? When can we expect it? Axpool, a couple months maybe. We're actually gonna try and enter a hackathon. I haven't watched the hackathon starter video yet, but we're gonna try and crank this out as part of a hackathon. So maybe sooner, but It
Okay.
probably won't be like in a runnable fashion. It won't be like a released product that you can install on your Umbrel. That's where I want to go. I want people to be able to run it on their Start 9 or their Umbrel or their Linux laptop at home.
Absolutely. Man, that'll be exciting. So say we get like 1 million, 5 million, 10 million BitXs running in the hands of the plebs. If every BitX owner mined on Hashpool, or the majority of them mined on Hashpools, could it shift Bitcoin's hash rate enough to maybe start rattling some of these mining giants, these conglomerates? That's what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
seeing.
Oh yeah.
Oh fuck
We
yeah.
we have to end FPPS. It is a centralization risk, and we're basically Bitcoin is at systemic risk. If you look at go watch my talk. I start off with this as the first slide. Bitcoin is in danger. How do we fix it? We need to decentralize, not just mining. A lot of people say decentralized mining. That's super vague. What we need to decentralize to save Bitcoin is block template production. We need to decentralize the people who um, the people who decide what goes into the Bitcoin blocks. So if you run a Hashpool instance, you're going to be, I think initially, yeah, no, you're going to be producing your own block in Hashpool. Xpool is a little different. Xpool, we're just targeting the UX challenges. Um, Man, I keep losing my train of thought. Can you remind me again what your question was?
Oh, just if we get 1 million or 5 million BitXs running, are we
Right,
going to be a threat with enough hash rate to rattle some of these centralized cartels?
right. One of the cool things is, or I guess one of the motivating factors is that PPLNS is the other way that mining pools can operate, and it's just a fundamentally more fair and transparent way to operate. In an FPPS mining pool, the pool itself assumes all of the risk. So mining is an inherently risky business. You might find a block, you might not, and your profitability as a business is at stake. What FPPS does is they say, we're going to take on all of the risk. We're just going to pay a flat rate to the miners. Trust me, bro, we're paying you fairly. We have this formula on our website so that you know we're paying you fairly. I just don't, I'm sorry, I don't trust you. I don't think I think we can do better. And I don't just think we can do better, I know we can do better. With PPLNS mining, what happens is the mining pool actually does not assume the risk of a payout. The miners themselves get paid more if the pool finds a lot of blocks, more than expected, and the miners themselves get paid less if the pool finds less than expected. This is a fundamentally more fair arrangement. It's more transparent. And what really works for Hashpool is that this is a composable arrangement. You can build on top of this. Um, and it solves the centralization risk of the FPPS pools because we're not centralizing all of this risk in these few large pools. You can't, I think I know it doesn't make economic sense to build a proxy pool. Well, yeah, it doesn't make economic sense to build a proxy pool on top of an FPPS pool. Because if we're doing eHash at our proxy pool, then we're going to create a market for buying and selling. We're going to create a market to trade this risk. When you sell your eHash tokens to someone else, you are selling the risk of those tokens not paying out as much or paying out more than expected. When you buy them, you're buying the risk. So we're going to create a market to trade this risk. So it just doesn't make sense to build a market for trading risk on top of a producer who already offloads all of the risk, if that makes sense. For PPLNS, that's what makes it composable. We can push the risk down to the proxy pool at the lower layer. So what I think, what I hope is going to happen is when we launch this thing, it will funnel more and more hash rate into the PPLNS pools. Actually, the PPLNS pool, there's only one left standing. It's Ocean. I think we're going to take the BitX hash rate and all this pleb miner hash rate, funnel it into PPLNS pools and sort of starve the beast. I hope that's how it plays out. And I think we'll hit a turning point. We may have already passed it where people realize that FPPS is not the way and start turning their hash rate away from what did I say? PPLNS? FPPS is not the way. I think we'll reach a turning point where people take their hash rate away from FPPS pools and point it at PPLNS pools. And my hope is that, we can contribute. Pleb miners can start that trend. You got to get the snowball going. Someone has to start this thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's, testament to what you're doing. And I think people are going to hear this conversation and want to dig deeper for sure, because this is changing the game. It's going to change the game when it's released, and it's going to fundamentally shape the future of home mining. And that's what's so exciting about it. So let's just wrap up with like 2 more questions, and I'll let you get back to your day. But really grateful for all the education that you've shared here, and I think people will get, there's a ton of high signal and a ton of value from what you've shared.
Thanks for having me on. This is my first podcast, so I really appreciate it. You're a very gracious host.
An honor to have you on first. Right on. What's the wildest rabbit hole you've gone down while building Hashpool, and how has it shaped the project? Whether it's related to coding or BitX or Bitcoin mining, privacy in general. I just kind of love to know, like, what's kept you up at night, and what's the wildest rabbit hole you've had to go down that's shaped this?
Wildest rabbit hole. I came to the project without really understanding the mining software stack. So just understanding mining in general, or understanding how a mining pool is built and runs. I'm still at the very entrance to that rabbit hole. I have not gone very far. I was able to clone down SV2, the Stratum V2, the SRI, the Stratum V2 reference implementation, and get into that code and kind of figure out, I've muddled my way through it to get a proof of concept going, but it's a whole new world. I come from the Bitcoin protocol. I studied the Bitcoin protocol, like Bitcoin Core, Lightning, and I've gone pretty far in eCash too. But now I'm delving into mining as well, and it's a different world. I feel like there's a big divide. There's the nerdy software developer, protocol developers over here, which is where I started from with my computer science background, and then there's the mining world, and they kind of don't talk to each other. And when I decided to start this project, one of the things that dawned on me early on was that there's a big gap here. There's a big opportunity. Nobody is bridging this gap. So I'm trying to come in and bridge the gap, and I'm happy to be on this podcast. I try to forge ties with the mining community. Scott, Solo, Satoshi, I love those guys. I talked to them at a conference. I love the anarchy symbol. You guys are doing good. That's been the wildest rabbit hole. And I will continue to go down it as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's just endless things to learn from a technical standpoint on all of that. So what are some of the main criticisms that, or like hesitation that you've received, if any, from people that you've brought this idea up to?
Most of it is the same criticisms that eCash gets. People don't like it because it's custodial. Guess what? All mining pools are custodial. They're fundamentally custodial in nature. And even eHash, we can't get away from that. You still have to custody. You send in your proof of work, and you have to wait for the pool to find a reward and trust that they'll send it to you. That's how all mining pools work. What we can do with eCash is we can bring privacy in. We can't make custody go away. We can at least improve it with best-in-class privacy. So I have to sell eCash to people. I have to explain how mining works. I have to explain how futures works. Sometimes it's tricky to bring this like giant basket of new ideas to people and try to bring them up to speed.
And that's where I'm hopeful that this was helpful, because we did go through what is eCash and, some of that, because I feel like the old Bitcoiners understand that because they were more so exposed to some of those early ideas. They study a lot of like, the early failed innovations, if you want to call them failed, or just things that didn't quite make it, but they led to Bitcoin being created, So I feel like a lot of those people have some reference and some backstory and some context, but a lot of the newer people that are maybe just plugging in a BitX for the first time don't know what Cashew is, don't know what eCash is. So hopefully this helped provide some context, or at least a starting reference for them to start diving into that and seeing that this all plays beautifully together.
Yeah, definitely keep learning. Every Bitcoiner has a mountain of learning to do, myself included. Even Adam Back, I'm sure, who is cited in the white paper, has a ton of stuff about Bitcoin he doesn't know. So you're not alone. And like I said, find the other Bitcoiners, get together, learn from each other, and never stop learning.
I know you're living also, Evan, on a Bitcoin standard. What's your 10-year vision or speculation for BitX, home mining, Hashpool? Like in a decade, could Hashpool and BitX evolve into its own sort of global network of tiny private miners powering a new Bitcoin economy?
Yeah, absolutely. In a decade, I hope to see people running their own mining pools, converting all of their heating needs, all of their electric heating to Bitcoin as much as you can. And I think the really exciting stuff, like I said, I'm always thinking long term. The really, really exciting stuff is some kind of sci-fi stuff, and it's a little bit out there, so I don't talk about it a lot. But I think Bitcoin mining in particular can reshape the geography of human settlement across the earth. Because if you think about it, if someone can spin up a mining pool that serves as a community bank from open source software, basically for free, um, we've got all these energy resources all over the planet. Like the sun is a giant nuclear reactor and it shoots photons at an unbelievable rate at the Earth. So everywhere on the surface of the Earth, there's this tremendous energy resource. All we have to do is go out and get it. The thing that's stopping people from doing this is that it's not very hospitable. But if you can go out and bring energy production resources, whether it's a solar panel or build a dam somewhere or hydro or like in the middle of the ocean, you can do something called OTEC mining in the middle of the ocean. Set up a hash pool, a Bitcoin mine, and then have people like deploy their solar panels, mine to your hash pool, and they literally print money from energy. And they can use that money to buy goods and services. So I hope we can get to a place where it's possible that if some humans anywhere on the planet are not happy with their government or with their neighbors or for any reason, they can get some solar panels, get some energy generation, get some infrastructure, go somewhere and set up a new life, whether it's in the middle of the ocean, on an asteroid, or whatever. Find a volcano somewhere and tap into the geothermal power and start a new society there. I think the long-term sci-fi vision is that I think Bitcoin and Hashpool is a key piece of the puzzle, will enable people to break free of all of the things that tie us down in this world. Borders, governments, societies. You can just go somewhere else and start over. I think it'll be the opening of a new frontier, of all the frontiers of human settlement and exploration. It sounds crazy. I don't want
I could
people to think I'm crazy. So
I could sense that spirit in you and in your work, and so I love that we've actually found our way to that organically. And the last episode I recorded for the show was actually with Kent Halliburton of SAS Mining, and they're harnessing stranded water energy that's usually sold off to Brazil in Paraguay, usually sold off to Brazil at a loss, and they kind of coined the term wild sats. And one thing that we talked about in that episode was how he thinks that this is going to, in the long term, much like what you just said, almost bring back homesteading or like self-sovereign communities. And it won't be called that, and it won't look exactly the same, but unlocking Bitcoin mining and breaking down, like, not everybody's going to leave cities, but there are going to be a lot of people that want to leave cities and go to a more low-key, organic, natural way of life. And if they could have land that had, natural resources on it like that, and then channel it into something like what you just described, it's going to be a revolution. It's going to unlock a better way of life, one that's more harmonious, and it's going to have a lot less restriction in the way that we live our life.
absolutely, it'll bring new problems too. It's not a panacea. There is no golden pill that solves all problems, but I think we can find a fundamentally more fair and free way to live through Bitcoin. And that's why I do
Yes.
what I do.
I love it. I love the idea of a community harnessing, wild energy and turning it into a self-sustaining community and pool of financial resource through something like Bitcoin and eCash and Hashpool. That's going to be quite the stack.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pumped
Awesome,
to see
man.
where this goes.
Well, look, we'll follow up with another episode as this nears release in the future. If you're up for that, I'd love
Absolutely.
to see how this continues to develop. I'll have my eyes on it for sure, constantly, because I think this is one of the best open source innovations that we're going to see, possibly in our lifetime. So I'm excited to watch it unfold, man. So not to blow too much smoke up your ass here.
I mean, we stand on the shoulders of giants. Satoshi invented Bitcoin, but he didn't invent it from whole cloth. David Chom came up with eCash. Uh, everything we build on top of those who came before us. So thank you. It's very, very kind, but I don't want to downplay the efforts of everyone else in Bitcoin.
Well, as you said, we all got here step by step, building on what came before. So this is what's new and exciting, and it's going to change a lot of lives. So, man, thanks, Evan, for taking the time to sit down with us for an hour and a half here and chop it up. I had a ton of fun. I learned a lot, and I hope all the hash punks and the cypherpunks and the home miners, all the BitXers got a ton of value from this and can see that open source is blossoming, it's blooming, it's exploding, and we've got some exciting things in the future.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I'll leave all of Evan's contact information, where you can find him, and his talk at BTC++ in the comments and in the description, so you guys can check it out, do some further research, and all of his links will be posted for you guys to check out. Until next time, this has been the Home Mining Podcast by Solo Satoshi. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, y'all. Stay free.